Since the dawn of the 21st century, scientific discovery has rushed forward at lightning speed. Genetics, physics, computerized technology, robotics, virtual reality. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert as they uncover the truths behind this ultimate scientific deception. Welcome to Sci Friday.
There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world. Get ready for
Science!
Science! Welcome to Sci Friday on Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Joining me in studio, our science advisor, my best friend, my wife, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, honey.
Hi, sweetheart.
That voice was very familiar.
Yes.
Surely it wasn't.
No, it was a celebrity impersonator. We'll call him Lush Rimbaugh.
Oh.
No.
I don't know that he'll like that nickname.
No, probably not, actually.
Change that one.
Yeah, D.C. Good is the gentleman who provided that voiceover. He's a professional voice talent, friend of the show, and he recorded a number of those that we'll be able to sprinkle through the year.
Oh, wonderful. In case you wonder what we're talking about, you just recently started watching Sci Friday. We allow you guys to submit your version of the word science in a video format, and we choose the best ones, and so far they've all been really good.
Oh, we got some great ones coming.
The choice is an easy one. Yeah, some great ones coming up. And at the end of the year, we'll put together a big compilation video of all the science submissions and let you vote.
Yeah.
And we'll figure out what the best prize, winners will get.
Yeah. So send your submission, whether it's video, audio, or some combination thereof, to SciFriday at skywatchtv.com. That's SciFriday at skywatchtv.com. And while we're talking about asking you to do things, please make sure you click subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. The YouTube channel, youtube.com/SciFriday. Once again, we have pulled out ahead of the multiverse.
Well, they're busy right now.
That's true.
They're a little bit busy.
We have an unfair advantage this week, and of course, we're taking advantage of it as much as we can.
The fact that she's probably going to go into labor very soon.
Yes.
So we'll just take advantage of it.
Perfect timing. Labor Day weekend?
Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
I think it's perfect, too. By the way, your opening quote was from The Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Gandalf. A.k.a. Mike Heiser. Yes, one of those interesting things, and that lines that Tolkien included in The Lord of the Rings, that when you view his work through a spiritual lens, has a deeper meaning.
And I always watch those movies, I should say, through that spiritual lens, because he was a born-again Christian, and he in fact helped to lead C.S. Lewis to the Lord. Yeah. And so he wrote, I believe, even though his publishers weren't aware of it at the time, I believe that Tolkien was trying to write more of the Christian worldview than he was allowed to tell about at the time. In some of the interviews, he will say, no, it's really not an allegory. It's really not all about Christianity, but it is. Sorry. And that Balrog, which is what Gandalf was talking about, that is a type of demon. Absolutely, yeah. Now the orcs were obviously, dangerous and could really, put a hurt on you. But when you're talking about things of the spirit, that you're talking about eternal consequences. Yeah. By the way, I'm going to warn the sound person and the people doing the edit. I'm about to blow my nose because it's dripping. So don't give me anything here. Just continue. Look away. Talk amongst yourself. One of the things that's popped up in the world this week, in the world of science, is a report with the mainstream media just breathlessly reporting that a mysterious signal from star HD 1645 4595 is... sounds like a radio station. Yeah. It is a signal coming from a star in the constellation Hercules. Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where it was from. Anyway, the signal was found by a Russian team, the Ratan 600 radio telescope. And of course, the mainstream media was all over this, reporting that, this signal is really strange. It's baffling. It doesn't seem natural. This could be the signal we've been waiting for to confirm extraterrestrial life. Just like the other one. And then the one before that. And then the one before exactly. And so I went to SETI at Home, which is the program that is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Volunteers all over the world give up computing cycles on their home computers to run an algorithm to decipher these signals that are picked up by radio telescopes all over the planet, looking for anomalies. And
the volunteers who are posting to this this forum at the SETI at Home website, which is hosted at Cal Berkeley, they're not excited. No, they said, basically, we've seen this drill before. Reporters won't have the background to know it's not interesting, but because the media has it, since this business runs on media, everyone will look at it. And they said, basically, what they're looking for, the things that would really get the volunteers who are serious about this excited, if the signal is persistent, appearing at the same spot in the sky on multiple observations, it only comes from one spot in the sky. If we re-observe the target, it is still there. Things that add to believability, the frequency period, its frequency, period, and delay don't correspond to known interference. The Doppler drift rate indicates it's exactly frequency stable in the frame of the center of mass of the solar system.
But it also has to be coming from an area that isn't populated by satellites.
Well, that's the next thing. Its properties, bandwidth, chirp rate, and coding indicate intelligent origin. Unfortunately, the observing method used by the Russian team does not permit many of these things to be determined. The signal was not persistent. The signal was gone when the target was re-observed. The signal frequency, period, and delay cannot be determined. The Doppler drift rate is unknown, and
That's easy to say.
Right. And point number 5, which gets to your point, many sources of known sources of interference, including satellites, are present in the observing band. So nothing to see here.
But
honestly,
it goes along with the drumbeat that we've seen now for many years. First possibility is that somebody needs money.
Right. Yeah, one of the guys said, maybe the Russian team is looking for money because they've had this observation for a while and they only just now released it.
But the other possibility is that it's just another part of the meme that we've seen repeated over and over again, that aliens are out there. In fact, they're the ones who actually caused humans to emerge many, many years ago. That's, of course, not true. We believe that God created humanity, and it was not an alien God.
That's correct.
It was God Almighty, Yahweh. And these so-called aliens who want to come in and say they're responsible for the panspermia across the universe and are our real fathers, that's a lie from the enemy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really became clear to me as I began researching the cosmologies of the ancient world. And when you look at where civilization really began, and there's a great website, our friend David Ensley, who is a big science geek, and we appreciate the link on this. It's really kind of a history thing, but it's an interactive map that shows the development of cities over time. And until about 1000 BC, almost all of the dots representing cities are clustered in what is today Iraq, Iran, Syria, and the Levant, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel.
Crescent area.
Right, and then you get a couple in Egypt, and then there's like 1 or 2 in Mesoamerica. But everything starts right there in the Fertile Crescent. And the cosmologies, because there are so many similarities between the creation accounts and the flood stories of Mesopotamia and the Bible, skeptics will say, well, the Hebrews just stole their religion from Mesopotamia. But the key difference, and this is what is very obvious when you read the cosmology of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Hurrians and so forth, their gods are not all-powerful. They can die. They did not... They only have certain spheres of influence. You've got a storm god, you've got a god of the sea, you've got a god of fishing, a god of the rivers, and so on and so forth. The Hebrews are unique. The Israelites, the Jews, Christians are unique. Our God created everything. He existed before time. He will exist until the end of whatever. He exists outside of time. And these other false gods who are real, Chemosh, Molech, Baal, Dagon, they are created beings.
Created beings whose free will they chose to.
Exactly. And that is the key difference. God is the creator of all, not just the creator of a certain little sphere of influence. He's got power over all, not just a little sphere of influence. And that is the key difference. The skeptics are just willingly blind.
Isn't it interesting, though, that SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, their acronym evokes a certain Egyptian god for me.
Well, in fact, the certain pharaoh, whose name was Seti, which basically means devoted to Set, and Set is the god of chaos, the god of storms, the god of foreigners, and was equated for several hundred years in northern Egypt, was the same as Baal.
Yes.
Baal, and this was at the time that the Hebrews were in Egypt.
Yes, exactly.
Baal was Set. It was the same god.
And if this is new to you, you need to go on. We're actually going to make DVDs of this eventually.
Right.
You've been doing presentations on this because you're writing a book. But right now, the PTL Network has the archives of the presentations you did last weekend and about a month ago. So go online and find that. We'll put a link in the show in the show notes. But can you put it in the lower third?
Yeah, ptlnetwork.com, and then I'll put a link. Yeah, the link to the actual files, and because the archive is kind of buried now.
Yeah.
So
you can do a search though for your name.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Also, Neil Gaiman, who's one of my favorite authors, wrote an interesting book called American Gods.
Yeah, I've read it. It's really good.
It's a really interesting take on the ancient gods who never died, but sort of became another version of themselves.
Right.
And various entities claim to be Odin or whatever. It's really an interesting book, but it's being made into a series. Yeah.
Interesting.
I saw that story, and you have to understand, when you look at series like Game of Thrones and other TV productions that are on cable channels, cable networks that, well, frankly, they promote themselves as being above censors. They don't have to, delete any scenes whatsoever. Anything goes on places like Showtime and Stars and whatever, HBO. They'll have family versions of their empires, but this is going to be on one of those networks, and I can't recall which one. But the story that came out this past week is about how to portray very intimate scenes between these so-called gods and humans with the proper CGI. I'll just put it that way. Yeah, I'm not going to go into more detail than that. But it's an interesting question because our friend Patty Heron, Lord love him, he's with the Lord now, but he used to joke about this god called Min, and he said he wasn't Minnie at all.
No. Min was the Egyptian god of
should have been called Max.
Fertility. Yeah. And he was.
So there you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the kind of things that you've been looking at. So it's interesting that the same thing that you're looking at with the ancient gods, it's being revived, not just in graphic novels, but also in novels and TV series. And it's all about bringing back the old gods.
Right. It's really interesting when you look at the ancient world, how consistent they've got the same theme of the old gods being replaced by a younger generation of gods. You see it in Mesopotamia, where the sky god Anu is replaced by the lord of the ether Enlil, who is then later replaced by Marduk, the god of Babylon. In the Canaanite pantheon, you've got a similar thing where Anu is replaced by El, who is replaced by Baal, or Hadad is actually his name. In the Greek pantheon, then, of course, you've got Uranus replaced by Cronus, replaced by Zeus, who is Baal.
The Olympians.
So it's the same sort of thing over and over again, which again is not duplicated in Christian theology.
Well, that's what's so interesting when you said it might be coming from the constellation Hercules, because your research indicates that, the
Baal who Elijah confronted, the priests of Baal that Elijah confronted on Mount Carmel, were actually the priests of the city god of Melkart, who was the city god of Tyre, because Ahab was the son-in-law of the king of Tyre. Jezebel was his daughter. And the god of Tyre at that time was called Melkart, but Melkart was just the Canaanite name for Heracles, who we know as Hercules. They were worshiping a Nephilim in the city of Tyre.
Also Hernunos, CERN.
Oh, interesting, which leads to the whole ritual there at the Gothard Tunnel.
Yes, and Tom Horn has written a brand new book that's going to be coming out.
With Josh Peck.
With Josh Peck. Oh, not Josh.
Yes,
Peck.
Josh.
He's in everything. Josh. No, the two of them have been working on this book, and I've got to take a peek at what they're writing. So that was a tease to this upcoming book. Yeah, that ceremony was creepy. But, there was a story, an article that just came out, and here's the title. More Christians in this nation, that's the United States, are reporting personal supernatural experiences. We'll give you that story when we come back.
I have spent a lifetime uncovering secrets buried beneath the sands of time by those who want them to remain concealed in mystery. But I did not expect to discover a series of clues from the future that were suddenly made known, the saga of which will now be revealed.
It is the names of the secret society members, the founding fathers that set America on course to an enigma.
Before and after the presidency of Donald Trump, the United States was, and now is again, on a trajectory to fulfill what famous Freemason Manly P. Hall described as the secret destiny of America.
It is the prophecy on the Great Seal of the United States, a scheme hidden in plain sight by the Founding Fathers for more than 200 years, foretelling the return of a terrifying demonic god who seizes control of Earth in the new order of the ages. The prophecy indicates he will arrive in 2025.
Now, Dr. Horn's research has uncovered an anomaly he never expected to find. Clues 200 years in the making which unlock the riddle of Zeitgeist 2025 and what the world is not ready to receive. Hidden secrets and forgotten prophecies from Qumran forecasting the year 2025 as the final age of man. How the current U.S. government is tied to America's occult destiny. Why historians and intelligence agencies foresee a totalitarian world government by 2025. How America's capital city is laid out to actuate a rival of Antichrist. Zeitgeist 2025.
Welcome back to Sci Friday on Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Please examine the website for our web-exclusive content, daily news updates, of course, into the multiverse with Josh and Christina Peck. Find out how they can produce programs that show Christina still carrying little baby Adam even after Adam is born. That's time travel.
Oh!
Yes, right here at skywatchtv.com and the Skywatch TV channel on Roku. Also the Skywatch TV channel on YouTube. Okay, Christians are reporting personal supernatural experiences.
Roughly I said the United States before the break, didn't I? This article actually this poll was done in the UK.
The UK, okay.
And that's really interesting because we have quite a number of viewers, by the way, who are in Scotland and the UK. And we are hearing
Got my tartan plaid pen.
Hearing from, that is a cool pen, by the way. We are hearing from you guys that paganism is on the rise.
Yeah.
It's maybe not, we're not as aware of it because we as a Christian nation, we like to call ourselves, and I'm sure that many in the UK would like to call themselves Christian nation. Truth is, paganism is really on the rise everywhere. Well, this says 65% of Christians, people calling themselves Christians in the United Kingdom, say they have experienced the supernatural, and of that, 24% of them said it's been within the past week.
Now, and this is significant, and I think the tie-in with Sci Friday and the theme here is that, of course, we are a Western nation that is, the UK, like the United States, is very technologically advanced. All of us are carrying mobile phones that are internet connected. We're using apps for everything from, tracking our daily activity to, giving us directions on where we need to go, calendars to remind us to do things, texting our messages back and forth.
We are augmented in many ways.
We are using apps to connect with other people, those of us who aren't already very happily connected. And yet, you've got people, more than 2/3, at least 2 in 3 Christians. Now, the percentage of Christians in the UK has been declining. We see that in Europe as a whole, where even though France, for example, is a nominally Roman Catholic nation, but there are far more practicing Muslims in France than there are people who go to Mass on any given week.
Yes, but Muslims believe in the supernatural too.
Right, very true. But my point being that even though us Christians in the West have desupernaturalized the Bible and we're dependent on technology, we try to make our theology, for example, Darwinian evolution, we try to make our theology consistent with what science is telling. Yes. And yet there are people who are very openly saying, the supernatural realm is real. The thing that's that is mind-boggling, though, is if you admit that the supernatural realm is real, that there are things happening to you that you can't explain through natural means, why don't you go to what our friend L.A. Marzulli calls the guidebook to the supernatural to get some answers?
The Bible. Well, here's the interesting other side of this poll. 2 of every 3, 68% of those who were asked, despite saying that they have experienced the supernatural, many of them, a quarter of them within the last week, feel an emphasis on miracles gives Christians a bad name.
Right, because we can't, if we try to, we believe in a God who spoke the universe into existence, but if we say that, it's because it's inconsistent with science, we will be embarrassed. And so we can't speak out because it makes us look bad.
It's so bizarre because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, SETI and the signal and the meme that has been put out there that the aliens are coming back, something's coming back, something's coming through. This is all about the supernatural war that we are involved in, whether you know you are in it or not. You are standing on a battlefield, people. And as scientists, we have to understand that we're to observe everything.
Right.
And that includes the supernatural world.
Right. You cannot start your scientific investigation with the assumption that nothing you cannot physically observe with your own limited human senses
because
it doesn't exist. Because that is a metaphysical claim.
Yes, but much of science is not observing it directly. You're observing the action that results from the act. Something is acted upon. It's just like the signals that astronomers get. It's very often that they're not observing a star directly. They notice that a signal is being blocked, or a signal is being, that it's alternately pulsing.
Right.
They derive certain conclusions based on that evidence. Well, like the wind, we don't really see air itself. We see leaves moving.
Right.
We feel the breeze. So that's a scientific observation. The supernatural world is the same thing. We can observe people who are possessed, things that have been moved in a room by a poltergeist.
Right.
I'm not saying I believe in ghosts and people who have passed on coming back, but we are being fooled by the enemy.
Right.
The fallen are trying to convince us that there are ghosts and poltergeists and also that old gods.
Right.
That they want to take over again.
And that's the thing. And the reason I made this, this gesture a minute ago, it was me like stopping short of a forehead slap. The idea that concept was a common theme in the fiction of H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes.
100 years ago.
The old gods.
The old gods.
Yes.
And researcher Peter Levenda, whose name we've mentioned before, wrote an interesting book called The Dark Lord about the work of Lovecraft, comparing it with the occult system developed by Aleister Crowley.
Yes.
Which was downloaded to his wife after they visited one of the pyramids in Egypt. And then that system as it was developed by the occultist Kenneth Grant, yes, in the middle part of the 20th century. Grant concluded that what Crowley had, the entity that Crowley had heard from was the one that the Egyptians called Set, the god of chaos.
And he equated that with Typhon. Right,
with the Greek god Typhon, who, interestingly, in some of the weird twists of ancient mythology, Baal and Zeus were the same, and the Egyptians believed that Baal and Set were the same. Tet was equated to the god Typhon, but Zeus killed Typhon underneath Baal's holy mountain, Mount Zaphon.
Well, didn't Osiris kill Set? No, it was the other way around.
Set killed Osiris, right. But Set, again, was the god of chaos, and that Grant, working with what Crowley had created or had received, had developed a system to try to invoke the god of chaos as the new god of our age. And the reason that Lavenda included Lovecraft in that book was that when you compare the Lovecraftian fiction and the stories that he wrote and the entities that he created for his stories, like Cthulhu, Dagon was one that he included in there.
He did.
In fact, I believe a lot of people think that Dagon is a fish god because of Lovecraft's story. But there are parallels between the work of Lovecraft and Crowley. And Lovecraft apparently did not know Crowley, was not familiar with his work at all. That Lavenda concluded they were drawing information from the same source.
And that's the thing. And some scientists actually are inspired through dreams and other means to suddenly realize a certain chemical.
The discovery of the benzene ring,
yes, exactly.
for example. Yeah. Which is based on like the dream of the Ouroboros, wasn't it?
He saw a dream of rolling snakes, of hoops. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the Ouroboros. Yeah. So we've got, and taking this back to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence now. So we've got this guy Crowley who wanted to usher in a new age. Of course, his devotees, Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, with their Babylon working to bring forth the Woman in Scarlet.
Yes.
Kenneth Grant taking on the work of Crowley and developing it further into this magical system devoted to invoking the god Set, the god of chaos. When we look at the world around us today and the way things have been going over the last few years with the rise of the Islamic State and the way here in the last 8 years in America, you can be a boy or a girl or both or either, and you can change from day to day because nothing is set. We have moved into an age of chaos.
Well, very much so, but that's a return to an old idea. I mean, when the old gods were ruling, when they were visibly ruling, they're still ruling. I hate to tell you this, but our world is still under the control of the enemy.
Temporarily.
Yes, temporarily. But back when they were obviously ruling and everybody knew it, it was not uncommon for people to pretend to be either, both, all.
Well, there's a reason that God put certain prohibitions in the books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy that he did. He didn't invent things that people weren't doing just to say, don't do this thing because it's an abomination.
Yeah.
There are things in there that there are parts of the Bible where if you want to read them with your children, you want to advance and kind of skim through first before you read through, say, Leviticus, because again, there were things that the Canaanites, the Amorites, the other ites that were in the land ahead of the Israelites that were just filthy. They were, and I don't mean just physically, but I mean spiritually degraded and decadent. And God said, "This is why I'm pushing these people out before you." Yeah. And you're right. We're moving back into that age.
And if you're wondering really quickly, if you're wondering why we get away on Sci Friday about talking this, we are on a battlefield, and it's important as a believer that you understand that. So teach that to your kids.
Amen. And even in this scientific world in which we live, an age of science, an age of reason, as Sharon pointed out, there are still quite a few people out there. And as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, there are people out there who are trying to use technology to quantify, to measure, to observe supernatural interactions. So even the world of science and academia is recognizing that there are forces at work beyond our understanding.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Sadly, if they would just open the book to Genesis 1:1 and begin to read, they would get it.
They would.
For Sharon Gilbert, I'm Derek Gilbert. Thank you for watching as we keep watch. This is Sci Friday on Skywatch TV.